What is up, everybody? Welcome to Live Day Friday. This is Coach Kayla, and I have a topic that I want to cover that has been brought up multiple times this week. Thought it was relevant. Hopefully it helps all of you, even if you're not the people that I was talking to, and that you can relate to it. So I titled this, How to Stop Binge Eating. Okay? Now, binge eating is a problem that a lot of people have. They tell me that they have it. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to someone and they say, I stress eat, I binge eat. I binge eat on the weekends, right? And I wrote a whole post on Monday, I think it was, about a client of mine that struggled with binge eating and kind of outlined why her problem existed. She was binge eating on the weekends specifically, okay? But I want to talk about binge eating in general, and let me make this clear though, okay? So there is the binge eating food disorder, or eating disorder. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we all binge eat to a certain extent, okay? And the problem is binge eating is not the problem, okay? Binge eating is a symptom of the problem, okay? And it's figuring out exactly what that problem is so that you can solve the binge eating. Okay, so when someone binge eats, usually it's coming from a few different areas I have found. Okay, and I've done this for 12 years, so I think I figured it out. I don't think there's multiple areas aside from if it's a true eating disorder. Okay, if someone binge eats frequently, there's usually a few different causes for that. One is they're being too restrictive, or they're at least attempting to be too restrictive in general. Okay, so they are legitimately starving their bodies, and then their body kind of throws them into a haywire. Okay, so that's one way. Number two is it's more of an emotional thing where they feel too restricted and they don't want to be restricted, and so they have a bad day, and that bad day turns into an entire week of binge eating because they know they're going to start restricting themselves again when things get better. Okay, so that's more of an emotional thing. And then, or it's what was the other one I was gonna say? I'll think of it. But anyway, so let's talk about those two for now. So if you are physically restricting yourself to the point of starvation, to where you go on the weekends and you stop dieting, right? And you are feeding your body and it's almost like you can't stop, that's a problem. And the problem is not that you can't stop. The problem is that you restricted yourself to the point where you can't stop eating because your body is thank you for finally fueling me, right? The problem with that is usually during these restriction periods, you do lose weight, right? You're losing weight, but what you're losing is usually muscle, and it's causing a ton of havoc on your metabolism. Okay, so people do this with fasting. People do this with just monitoring their portions and making their portions too small, right? There's lots of different ways that this can happen so that when you lose the 10 to 15 pounds, and it's usually the people that don't have a lot of weight to lose. Let me make that clear. It's the people who yo-yo and lose and gain the same 5 to 15 pounds over and over and over and over and over again. It's these people, okay? They restrict themselves, they binge eat, gain it back. They restrict themselves, lose it, binge eat, gain it back. That's the cycle, okay? And they continue to do this cycle instead of, and what sucks is, usually what happens is they actually have to eat less and less and less and less to lose the same amount of weight because they have lost so much muscle mass from these restriction cycles that their metabolism is just they can't do anything. They can't lose the weight anymore. And usually what you have to do, if you are that person, is you have to take time and probably even gain weight, or at least maintain at your higher weight for a good period of time, and allow your metabolism to get rekindled, I'd like to say, right? So that you can actually lose the weight and sustain it long term and do it the right way, okay? But you have to do it you can't starve yourself. You have to eat food, okay? You have to fuel your body and you have to feed it, okay? So like that's one example. Example number 2, more like the emotional stuff, right? Sometimes it stems from childhood. Sometimes you were one of those kids who was unlucky and your mom made you diet because you grew funny when you were a teenager, because that's what happens, right? And so your mom may have restricted foods in your house. Like even if she wasn't trying to be like, even maybe if she wasn't, part of the whole diet culture and like very diet conscious and stuff, she may have just been trying to be health conscious. And so you didn't have sweets, you didn't have ice cream, you didn't have donuts, you didn't have those things in the house. And so when you got those things, it was like a super special treat, and you just wanted to like, have it all the time and have all of it at once because you knew you weren't going to get it again, right? Tell me if this is sounding familiar to any of you or it's relating. So when you are that person where you're like, oh, I want this because I'm going to eat all the Halloween candy and make myself sick because I don't get it again until Christmas or Easter or whatever, right? So if that's you, then there's a chance that when you do try to restrict yourself and you're like, all right, I'm going to be good, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to do all these things. When you do that, you're kind of triggering that like 6-year-old self, okay? And you're like, oh, I never have any treats. Like, why can't I have any treats, right? And so then when you do get them, because now you're an adult and you can decide when you have them, right? You kind of go all out, and you, instead of having just like one donut, you have a whole box of donuts. And here's the thing, and here's what's cool, is if that's you, if you're the person who continues to restrict themselves, then you'll lose weight, you'll do great. But then as soon as life happens, it's like, no, I'm going to have McDonald's, I'm going to have all of these things, I'm going to go out to eat, I'm going to enjoy all of these things because I can't anymore as soon as I decide to diet again. The cool thing about that is all it takes is one switch. And sometimes that switch takes a lot of effort though, right? Like sometimes it's not just a light switch. Sometimes it's like pulling this big switch, especially if this has been a problem and something in your life for like decades. And that is some of you watching this, okay? I'm like thinking of someone specific in my program actually right now, right? Like the switch takes so much effort to pull down when you have been dealing with this for so long. And the switch is, you can have it. You can have it whenever you want it. You can. And then what's cool is you get to choose how you have it, when you have it, and in a way that can still get you the results that you want. And we teach you how to do that, because when you track your calories and your macronutrients, as long as you're hitting your goals, like your fiber goals, your protein goals, your carb goals, your fat goals, and all that stuff, you can have treats. You can have donuts. You can have cakes. You can have cookies. You just have to fit it into your numbers, okay? Sometimes it doesn't fit with your numbers, and sometimes that's okay, right? Last night, one of our clients, she went out to eat with her daughter, I think it was. Yeah. And she was having like a date with her daughter, right? And her daughter told her what she wanted for dinner. Well, when they were driving to go get the thing that she wanted for dinner, the daughter changed her mind. And so she had to go and do something different, and it like threw off everything in her MyFitnessPal. And she was like, I don't know what to do because I just was trying to enjoy it. And I was like, you know what? Days with kids are worth every calorie. Okay? Because sometimes life is just going to get in the way, and it's going to be okay because life goes on, right? These single events that happen, they don't need to turn into weekends and week-long and month-long binges, right? They can just be that, like a date with my daughter. That's what it can be. And so, but when you do struggle with binge eating, so like how she would turn it into a bad cycle is by turning it into like, well, I already blew it this weekend, so I'm just going to stop and give up altogether. So instead of turning it into like a weekend binge fest, she just decided like, hey, that was a one-time event that happens once in a while, and it's not a big deal, and I can get back on track tomorrow. Okay. But she chose to have ice cream or whatever it was, and she could have the ice cream, and she chose how to have it, how to react to how to have it, and all of that stuff. Okay. So to stop binge eating, you need to stop restricting yourself, period. Whether that's you are physically restricting yourself 100% and literally starving yourself to the point where your body is wants food. And so when you start to actually feed it, it just like can't stop, right? Or you're restricting yourself, and emotionally it's doing detriment. And regardless of the way that you're doing it, both cause stress, both cause problems. And the problem usually is the binge eating. And so if you stopped restricting yourself, in general, the binge eating will stop. Okay. Now, obviously, when you're in a fat loss phase and you're trying to lose weight, there is going to be some kind of restriction, right? But you need to do it in a way, you need to do it fast. You need to do it like logistically, like you need to know when you're starting, when you're stopping, what the intent behind it is, and you're going to make it quick. Okay. Like when I am cutting weight for my powerlifting events, it is like a 2-week, super hard, gonna get it done thing, because I usually have to cut like 3 or 4 pounds, right? But like, it's like fast, it's furious, it's done, and like that's it. And it's like intentional, right? You should not be trying to lose weight and restrict yourself for months at a time, which a lot of people do. They jump into these programs like Optavia or keto or anything like that, and they're like, I'm going to do keto and lose my 35 pounds. But that doesn't take a month. That doesn't take 2 months. That doesn't take 3 months. It takes a long period of time, sometimes maybe 3 months, but like it's a restriction for long durations. And so the binge eating happens. And okay. And you don't want to do that. And so to stop binge eating, stop restricting. Okay. Simple as that. And if you don't know how to stop restricting yourself, you don't know how to track your calories and be able to incorporate these foods in so that you can enjoy them, just comment below, because we would love to help. Okay. We do macro mapping, personalized plans. I can map out, like, basically what I do with those is I map out your next 12 weeks so that you know exactly how many calories to eat, what your macro should look like, and all of that for the next 12 weeks. Okay. It's only $97. Like, why not? Right. And then obviously we have a coaching program, and I'd love to help, but if that's like the only thing you're missing is like, I don't even know what calories to eat, and so I just keep starving myself or fasting or monitoring my portions or cutting out carbs or eliminating sugars, and that's how I lose my weight. It doesn't have to be that way. Okay. And that's what causes the binge eating. Okay. So hope that this is valuable. Hopefully it made sense. If it did, give me a #value, and I will chat with you all later.